Can you imagine the president himself at his speech in front of the Golkar people in the Congress saying that, well, I know that in Golkar there are factions internally. There is faction of Yusuf Kala, which is his vice president. And he also mentioned there is a faction of former chairman and former speaker of the House, which is Agung Laksono. He would never ever have that comment within his own political party, which endorsing him for president, which is PDIP.
Gibakan rasa persatuan, raih mimpi wujudkan semua angan dari Indonesia untuk Indonesia.
This is Indonesia in Depth, Episode 1, the very first episode. And I'm joined today by my colleague and good friend, Arief Budiman.
Hey, Shawn.
Hey, Arief, thanks for joining. It's the first episode.
The first ever for Indonesia in Depth.
All right, you nervous?
A little bit.
Well, I'm going to give you some background on Arief. Arief is a senior political risk consultant at Lexico Indonesia here in Jakarta. He has extensive experience for over a decade counseling 3 speakers of the Indonesian parliament, a deputy speaker, lawmakers, and business principals. After years of working in parliament, Arief has gone on to provide advice on political and policy risk, the regulatory environment for numerous multinational corporations operating in Indonesia, and in addition to that, one of the most interesting experiences I believe he has was when he worked for the U.S. Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and he got to know the Hill inside and out. Hopefully you could take me for a tour sometime there.
Well, lucky for me that I was in DC before Trump. It will be interesting if I'm there with Trump administration. Anyway, for our first episode, the very first episode of Indonesia in Depth, what is the topic that we're gonna discuss today? There's so many things out there about Indonesia.
Absolutely.
So many interesting things, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it is Indonesia, so there's a million topics to talk about, there's a million issues to talk about. But I think for today, I think we could just maybe grab onto one. And I want to talk a little bit about Indonesia's second largest political party, which is, of course, Golkar.
Ooh, that will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Golkar has been getting all the headlines recently. Why is the party so important?
Yeah, Golkar is important because I can give you 2 main reasons why Golkar is important. First is that Golkar has a strong history in Indonesia. The party was established in 1964. It was actually by the Indonesian first president Sukarno. And then when Sukarno stepped down from the office, President Suharto became the president, and he used Golkar as his political vehicle. So Golkar has a strong background under Suharto administration. And if you see current Indonesia, like big cities growing, the increasing economy and everything, that is part of the Golkar history. Because back in time, during Suharto administration, Golkar is the single majority. Indonesia has 3 political parties at a time. The other 2 is just like a bread of crumbs in the world of Indonesian politics, and the rest of the people in the parliament and in the government came from Golkar. So Golkar basically built Indonesia. That's the first reason. The second reason is Indonesia is home for the largest Muslim populations in the world, and many political parties based on the Islamic teaching, and also many parties that have they call it as a nationalistic ideology. Golkar is actually standing among them. So Golkar is the midway for people who don't like to get deep into Islamic ideology, and then they also don't want to get deep more to the nationalistic side. So that's why Golkar is very important. And then the last one is because of the middle position of Golkar, then many people vote for Golkar. So it has a strong electoral basis.
You mentioned some history of Golkar, some of the influence over the past 32 years with President Suharto. You talked about the ideology. Now, can you speak a little bit about Setia Novanto?
Oh, okay, that guy.
Yeah, so the former party chairman, the former Speaker of the House, he has been replaced very recently, and he has been removed as Speaker of the House. This, of course, is all due to the fact that he has been named as a suspect and later indicted by the corruption court in one of Indonesia's largest corruption scandals for the EID, or EKTP as they say here. The party had an extraordinary Congress and decided to replace Novanto as their chairman. So who's the new chairman, and tell us about him?
The new chairman is Erlangga Hartarto. He is currently also holds a position as the Minister of Industry under Jokowi's cabinet, under Jokowi's administration. And he is a relatively still young for chairing a big political party in the country. Previously, before appointed as minister, Erlangga was elected as member of parliament in 2004, and then during the time of the one period of administration for 5 years, he was the chairman of Commission of Energy. And then in 2009 election, he got re-elected, and he was the chairman of Commission of Trade and Industry in the parliament. So he has a strong background as parliamentarian. He is a Golkar man. His dad, also one of the founding father, if I have to say, of the Ministry of Industry, the one that he actually became the minister.
Wasn't he minister for like 15 years or something, 10 years? During Suharto's time, his father?
Oh, you mean Erlangga's father?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was minister for, I think it's more than 2 decades, like 20 years serving as minister. Well, as you know from the time frame there, Golkar is really have strong influence in the Indonesian development agenda. Erlangga is a reputable businessman. He is one of the minister under Jokowi's administration that is known as a business-friendly minister. He is really open-minded guy. He's very transparent and he's close to business. He's one of the champion of many discussions between Indonesia and other countries in the framework of economic partnership. And he is also a clean figure. Compared to the previous chairman, he is really clean. He appears in no corruption cases. His name is really good. And Erlangga has really interesting new slogan for the party, which is clean party, better party, something like that.
So really want to make a change from the past, from leadership under the former speaker, Setia Novanto.
Exactly.
So we know that Erlangga is the industry minister. He's been there for just over a year now. But is he going to stay as minister? If I recall correctly, back in 2014, Jokowi required all his potential cabinet members to relinquish any political party positions before joining the cabinet. I mean, does this requirement still remain? And what's going to happen to Erlangga? He's the chairman of Golkar Party now. I mean, is the president going to stick to his requirements that he has to relinquish that position? What's going to happen?
Well, I think Erlangga has a different situation here. Jokowi did mention about that he won't appoint minister with double job, with 2 jobs, especially as the chairman of a political party. But Erlangga, he was appointed before he was chairman of a political party. So I don't know either this is in the same context, just like the president mentioned back in his early year of administration or the first month of his administration.
What was his position when he came in as Minister of Industry in Golkar? His position was...
He was member of parliament.
Okay, but he had another... Did he have another position in the party?
In the party, yes. He holds a strategic position, one of the top leadership position in the party, which is a coordinator position. He is responsible for economic policies in the party. And Erlangga is also, as I mentioned, known as one of the most business-friendly minister in the cabinet. Jokowi wants to have a strong gestures towards foreign investments, and Erlangga is a good ally for foreign investors in Indonesia. So Erlangga, he is very accessible to foreign investors, and he have a forward thinking about how to make Indonesia a good place to invest. And Jokowi is really relying on his openness and his business-friendly stature towards foreign investors, because Jokowi wants to have more foreign investment. He wants to secure foreign investment in Indonesia, and he put Erlangga some sort of the ambassador, the cabinet ambassador for foreign investors. So by having him both as the chairman of the party and then Minister of Industry, it will be difficult for President Jokowi to release him or dismiss him from the cabinet, because he has been a great ambassador for Jokowi for foreign investors, and then in the same time Jokowi also need Golkar.
Jiwamu ada dalam Pancasila, Injil keselamatan iman terbungkus di dalamnya. Buka dirimu untuk ciptakan perubahan, bawalah kembali Indonesia dalam dekapan. Aku tak mau jadi dirimu yang egois, aku ingin dirimu.
This is the Indonesia In-Depth podcast, and we're speaking with Arief Budiman, a political risk advisor here in Jakarta. So you described a little bit of the relationship between Erlangga and Jokowi. So how is the relationship between Jokowi and Golkar? And where do you see it going? His party is PDIP, and he was nominated by that party in 2014. Do you see the relationship growing between the two? And do you see the president going closer to Golkar rather than PDIP? Or how do you see it going in the next year and a half?
Well, this is really interesting because as we know that Jokowi is a newcomer in Indonesian political power play. So he came in the politics as he was elected as mayor in one of the small city in Central Java, and then he won the governor seat of Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, and then the same political party that nominated him from mayor to governor, then president, is the same party, which is PDIP. So he has limited political network in the national stage. Then automatically he also has limitations on managing the political power play. And by the time goes by, he learns a lot about politics.
Yeah, he had some difficulties, I have to say, in the first year and a half, understanding the dynamics at the national level, and some of the cabinet members were outmaneuvering him. I think it's fair to say.
Yes. And so that's why he needs to expand his network. So Golkar, as the second largest by votes and seats based on 2014 election, he needs to expand his, I would say, security net or safety net for him. Especially within the next 1.5 years, Indonesia will have the next presidential election. So definitely he needs to secure his ticket for his second term, and having more and more endorsements from political parties is actually really important for Jokowi.
What our listeners should know is that there's regional elections in 2018, and then the national elections will be in April of 2019?
2019, yeah. So what we call as the national election is the parliamentary election and presidential election, and that will be held in one day.
So yeah, it's a key time running up to the campaign period soon, and definitely politics in high gear.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What else should listeners of the show know about the Golkar Party, and maybe something else we haven't mentioned? What else is important?
There are two interesting things about Jokowi and his relationship with the second largest party in the country. During the extraordinary Congress, when Golkar wants to change the previous chairman to Erlangga right now, Jokowi was invited to have his keynote speech in the party's extraordinary Congress. And as president of the country that made a speech in front of a party event, which is not his political party.
So just
because he's...
Make that clear. He's making a speech in front of the Golkar Party.
In front of the Golkar Party, not his party that nominated him as president, mentioning factions inside the party. Can you imagine the president himself at his speech mentioning, well, I know that in Golkar there are factions internally. There is faction of Yusuf Kala, which is his vice president. And he also mentioned there is a faction of former chairman and former speaker of the House back in 2004, which is Agung Laksono. And he mentioned at least 5 to 6 political party patrons inside Golkar.
So he's been studying Golkar quite closely.
Exactly.
Maybe closer than he knows PDIP.
And then he said in front of the Golkar people in the Congress, saying that, well, I observe and monitor the party from distance. I mean, putting that
that's pretty
comments,
close, yeah.
that's pretty close, like really, really close. He would never ever have that comment within his own political party, which endorsing him for president, which is PDIP. So that's one interesting thing about Jokowi and Golkar. And then the last thing is that even though Golkar is the second largest, but currently Golkar holds the Speaker of the House or the parliamentary speaker in Indonesian Parliament,
Which is empty at the moment.
which is vacant at the moment because of after Golkar has new chairman, and then the chairman will hold a plenary meeting of the party to determine who is the next Speaker of the House.
When is this? Is there a date yet?
This is gonna take place sometimes early January, because by January the 8th, the Indonesian Parliament will enter the new session.
They're on recess right now.
Yes, they're on recess right now. So those are two other interesting things about Golkar. And then for our audience to know also that Golkar also holds, besides the Speaker of the House itself, Golkar also holds many strategic positions in parliamentary commissions that definitely many of the commissions related to business and industrial policy. So that's, I think, the other 2 points that really interesting about Golkar. And it's really interesting to see how this goes on after the new chairman, Erlangga Hartarto, since he used the new slogan of the new party, new clean party, new hope of the party. Can Golkar really appear or perform as a clear party? Because before Erlangga, they have so many weight that really related to corruption cases. And the top of the story is their own chairman was indicted.
Yeah, Erlangga has a lot of work ahead of him.
Yes, definitely.
So the thing to watch, we should be keep an eye out for the upcoming next session in the House.
Yes, definitely. Who's gonna be the next speaker?
And then also seeing how the relationship between Jokowi and Golkar develops, and most likely closer.
Exactly. Will Golkar really be able to secure their endorsement for Jokowi to secure his second term of administration?
Well, that's great. So,
all right.
I think we've covered Golkar pretty well. I think going forward, we could talk about PDIP and some of the other parties as well. So the dynamics in those parties. But I think for today, I think it's a good first episode. And yes, I think going forward, Arief and I are going to try and sit down with as many decision makers as possible. Decision makers in the House and the government, informal influencers in the government. Sit down and speak to them one-on-one and provide you with as much information as we can.
Definitely.
And recent developments in Indonesia. So thanks, Arief, for joining this show. And
thank you.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye-bye.